Hi girls, today we are going to see about kinematics. So what is kinematics? Kinematics is about the motions without considering the forces. That is called as kinematics. We shall see that in the later part. And here when you see the introduction, so when you take physics is having two pillars, one is experiment and other is mathematics. So either it depends upon the experimental facts, and sometimes it is proved by mathematical derivations, and how it is developed we shall see now. And motion we can see from all microscopic level to macroscopic level. And microscopic means within the atom, for example proton, electron, neutron, and the motion found between them is called as microscopic level. Macroscopic or galactic means a large scale, that is planetary system, and their motions is called as macroscopic level. So here this is just an introduction, and here how we are using the language of mathematics in physics, that we shall see here. And quantifying means suppose you take for example in a race, when 10 athletes run in a race, all of them do not run in the same manner. So you cannot say faster, average, slower, like that you cannot say. So their performance can be studied only by quantifying means by assigning the numbers, that is this much fast, this much slow, like that we have to quantify. Kinematics, so it is a branch of mechanics which deals with the motion of objects without taking force into account. So kinematics means just motion, but we are not considering about forces. So the Greek word kinema means motion. And next we are going to see about concept of rest and motion. And here we can take a person sitting in a moving bus, and he is at rest with respect to a fellow passenger, but is in motion with respect to a person outside the bus. So for a person who is sitting near to him, he is at rest, whereas for a person outside the bus, he is in motion. So the concepts of rest and motion have meaning only with respect to some reference frame. So from where we are observing, that is very important. That part, that is that frame is called as reference frame. And here this is the frame of reference. Here x, y, z three coordinates are there, and so this frame is called as frame of reference. That is the three axes x, y, z. They give an idea about the position of the object and whether it is in rest or in motion. Here there are two coordinate axes, one in pink and other in green, and we shall see the pink is in motion, whereas the green frame of reference is at rest. So here what is a frame of reference? If we imagine a coordinate system and the position of the object is described relative to it, then such a coordinate system is called a frame of reference. So coordinate system means x, y, z, and we can describe the position using x, y, z, then that is called as frame of reference. And here the coordinates are position coordinates, that is x, y, and z, and this system is called Cartesian coordinate system. And here when you see there are three coordinates x, y, and z, and here the black dot, this black dot is nothing but the position, and here this is given by x, y, and z. That is from x axis what is the distance, from y axis what is the distance, and from z axis what is the distance. So here the black dot is at a particular position which is described by the coordinates x, y, and z. And so here x, y, z are drawn in anti-clockwise direction. The coordinate system is called right-handed coordinate system. And so here when you move from x, y, z, it will move in anti-clockwise direction. So such a coordinate system is called as right-handed coordinate system. And so usually in physics we are following only the right-handed coordinate system, and there are several diagrams given. This is anti-clockwise, but z is up, and here this is left-handed, that is z is up, but this is in clockwise direction, whereas here this is in anti-clockwise direction, y is up, and here this is this is also clockwise direction, but y is up. So these are the diagrams that are showing this. Then we are going to see about point mass. So point mass means a finite mass, that is a very small mass, is called as point mass. Sometimes even for bigger objects we can take it as point mass, because point mass is very required and is very useful. So here when you see the concept of point mass, a point mass has finite mass with 0 dimension. 0 dimension means it has no length, breadth or height, only it is a point. So sometimes we are taking this point mass concept. For example, suppose if you analyze the motion of the earth with respect to sun, earth can be treated as a point mass. Here even if earth is having some mass, we can take earth as point mass with relative to sun. And suppose if you take any irregular object and throw it in air, and that motion can be considered by taking as point mass. So the point mass means it has no dimension, because the size of the stone is very much smaller than the distance through which it travels. Next, types of motion. There are 3 motions in our day-to-day life. The first one is linear motion. Linear motion means if it moves in a straight line. When you see the example, you can understand an athlete running in the straight track and a particle falling vertically downwards to the earth. Circular motion means which is describing a circular path. So that is called a circular motion. That is the whirling motion of a stone attached to a string. So when you move the string, it will move in a round path, that is circular path. That is example for circular motion. Then the motion of a satellite around the earth, and here when you see the whirling motion of the stone, so this is the circular path. And here this is the satellite revolving around the earth. This is also example for circular path. And so here next we are going to see about rotational motion. Rotational motion means if an object moves in a rotational path, then it is called rotational motion. So it follows a rotation about an axis. And here the examples are rotation of a disc about an axis through its center and spinning of the earth about its own axis. And so here the disc is rotating about an axis, and this is spinning of earth. These are the examples for rotating motion. And next we are going to see about vibratory motion. Vibratory motion means one to and fro motion about a fixed point is called vibratory motion. Example, guitar string. We will pluck the string, that is vibration. Also movement of a swing. So here when you see this swing, the boy or girl is moving to and fro. So this is also example for vibratory motion. So these are the 4 types of motions. And next we are going to see about other types of motion are also possible. Elliptical motion and helical motion. And next, motion in 1, 2 and 3 dimensions. So the way you see there are 3 coordinates, x, y and z. So when these coordinates change with time, then the particle is said to be in motion, and we shall see one by one. Motion in 1 dimension means one dimensional motion is a motion of a particle moving along a straight line, and a straight line motion is otherwise called as motion in 1 dimension. And so if a car moves from position A to position B along x direction, you see the car is moving along x axis, there is no change along y axis or z axis. So this is called motion in 1 dimension. And for example, motion of a train along a straight railway track, an object falling freely under gravity due to earth, close to the earth. Next, motion in dimension means if a particle is moving along a curved path in a plane, then it is said to be in 2-dimensional motion. So here when you take 2 of the 3 rectangular coordinates specifying the position of the object change with time. 2 of the 3 coordinates means x, y, z, any 2 will change. Suppose here you take y, z plane and a particle is moving in y, z plane. So the coordinates will vary from y1, z1 to y2, z2. Such a motion is called as 2-dimensional motion. Motion of a coin on a carom board, an insect crawling over the floor of a room. So these are examples for 2-dimensional motion. Next, motion in 3 dimensions means a particle moving in usual 3-dimensional space has 3-dimensional motion, that is all the three coordinates specifying the position of an object change with respect to time, that is x, y and z. All the three coordinates will vary. Such a motion is called as three-dimensional motion. So here a bird flying in the sky and a random motion of the gas molecule and flying of a kite on a windy day. So here these are the examples for motion in three dimension. So you can take the motion in space can be considered as motion in three dimension. Next we are going to see about elementary concepts of vector algebra, and here we are going to see about the different types of vectors. So here what is a scalar? A scalar, you see it is described only by magnitude. It has only magnitude. Example, distance, mass, temperature, speed and energy. These quantities they have only magnitude, they don't have direction. And vector means which is described by both magnitude and direction. And here you see this is represented by an arrow mark like this, and the length of the arrow mark will give you the magnitude and the head of the arrow will give you the direction. This is geometrical representation of a vector. So here examples for vectors are force, velocity, displacement, position, vector, acceleration, linear momentum and angular momentum. These quantities has both magnitude and direction, so they are called as vector. So these are the two types of quantities, scalar and vector. And here when you see, here it is always a positive quantity and the magnitude is otherwise called as norm of a vector, and it is usually represented as a vector and a modulus of a vector. And so here magnitude of a vector is given by the length of the line. So this shows, the red shows the magnitude of a vector. And there are different types of vectors, we shall see one by one. The first one is equal vectors. So equal vectors means they have equal magnitude and same direction. So here when you see a vector and b vector, they are having same magnitude and same direction, so they are called as equal vectors. Next, collinear vectors means which act along the same line. Collinear means acting along the same line. The angle between them can be either 0 or 180 degree. And under this you are having two vectors, parallel vectors, and the next one is anti-parallel vectors. And so what is the difference? Parallel vectors means they, the two vectors a vector and b vector act in the same direction, and so it is called as parallel vectors. Whereas you see this diagram, both a vector and b vector they follow the same direction, whereas anti-parallel vectors means they are in opposite direction, so the angle is 180 degree here. And so here when you see these vectors a vector and b vector, they travel in opposite direction, and here the angle between them is 180 degree. So either parallel or anti-parallel, both of them come under collinear vectors. And next we shall see about unit vector. The unit vector is a vector divided by its magnitude is called as unit vector. The unit vector a vector is denoted by a cap. You can read it as a cap or a hat. And so here what is a cap? A cap is equal to a vector divided by a. So here a cap represents unit vector, and a vector when it is divided by its magnitude, then it is given, it is read as a cap. And so this is called unit vector. Unit vector specifies only the direction of the vector quantity, and so unit vector is nothing but only it gives direction because the magnitude is 1. And what is orthogonal unit vector? Orthogonal unit vectors, in this I vector, j vector and k vector, they are called as orthogonal unit vectors. And here when you see this diagram, I vector, j vector, k vector are along x, y and z direction, and all the three are perpendicular to each other. Such vectors are called as orthogonal unit vectors, and the angle between them is always equal to 90 degree. Next we are going to see about addition of vectors, and addition of vectors cannot be done easily by ordinary algebra, and we have to do either add geometrically or analytically, and the rules are called vector algebra. And here there are two methods to find out the sum of two vectors. The first one is triangle law of addition method, and the next one is parallelogram law of vectors. And we are going to see about triangular law of addition method. In this you take two vectors a vector and b vector, and the end part is called tail, and the arrow head you see in this diagram. So one side it is having tail, on the other side you are having head, and we have to join these vectors to find out the resultant. See how we are going to find the resultant. So here A vector and B vector are taken to be as two adjacent sides of the triangle. Then the resultant is given by the third side of the triangle taken in the reverse order. This law is called triangle law. And here when you see this diagram, the head and the tail is attached. That is, the head of A vector is connected with the tail of B vector, and this forms the adjacent side of the triangle. Then the closing side, that is the third side, will give you the resultant, and they should be taken in reversed order. Suppose if you take A vector and B vector, they are in anti-clockwise direction, whereas this resultant is in clockwise direction. So that should be taken in reverse order. And so here that is explained here. R vector is the resultant vector connecting the tail of the first vector A to the head of the second vector B, and in this way we are going to find out the length of R vector. Here let R vector is equal to A vector plus B vector, and so here you see this diagram, OQ vector is equal to OP vector plus PQ vector, that is given in this equation. OQ vector is equal to OP vector plus PQ vector. Now we are going to find out magnitude of the resultant vector, and next the direction of the resultant vector. These are the two topics coming under this. First we are going to see about the magnitude of the resultant vector, and here you see this diagram. In this diagram you have having A vector and B vector, you produce the line. Here B is extended, and so it meets at N. So you are having two perpendicular lines AN and BN, and now you take the triangle ABN. Here the angle ABAN is taken to be as theta, and the angle between the resultant and A vector is taken to be as alpha. So here there are two angles, one is theta and the other is alpha, and here alpha gives the direction of the resultant vector. And so here when you see in this diagram cos theta in this diagram, what is cos theta? Adjacent by hypotenuse. Here the adjacent is AN and hypotenuse is AB. So here you can take cos theta is equal to AN by B, that is B vector. So AN is equal to B cos theta. Similarly you are finding out sin theta, which is given by BN by B. So BN is equal to B sin theta. Now you take the triangle OBN. In this apply Pythagoras theorem. So applying Pythagoras theorem, OB square is equal to ON square plus NB square. So that is given here. So OB square is equal to ON square plus BN square. Now OB is nothing but R square. ON is A plus B cos theta. Because in this, what is ON? ON is A vector plus B cos theta. You see the bottom line. So here A plus B cos theta the whole square plus, and Bn is B sin theta the whole square. Now you expand this. A plus B cos theta the whole square is, you expand this, A square B square cos square theta plus 2AB cos theta plus B square sin square theta, and you know cos square theta plus sin square theta is equal to 1. So taking B square outside, within the brackets cos square theta plus sin square theta plus 2AB cos theta. So cos square theta plus sin square theta will become 1, and so R is equal to square root of A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta. So in this way you have found out what is the magnitude of the resultant vector. Now we are going to see about the direction of the resultant vector. For that you see in this alpha will give you the direction, because alpha is angle between R vector and A vector. So here when you see what is tan alpha is opposite by adjacent. So here when you see what is tan alpha, opposite is B vector and adjacent is here A plus B cos theta. So here Bn by On, and which is equal to Bn by Oa plus An, that is B sin theta divided by A plus B cos theta. So or you can write it as alpha is equal to tan inverse B sin theta by A plus B cos theta. So in this way you have found out the magnitude and direction of the two resultant vectors. Hope you understand this derivation. So here first you are drawing this diagram, you are extending B, and that will meet that horizontal line at a point n, and that angle is 90 degree. From this we are deriving the resultant by applying the Pythagoras theorem. OB square is equal to ON square plus NB square, and you are finding out the magnitude of the resultant, and the direction is given by the angle alpha, tan alpha. So tan alpha opposite by adjacent, and you are substituting that, you are getting the direction. That's all about the derivation. Hope you understand.